Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the NFL Draft Triple Take presented by UPMC. I'm Mike Prisuta, joined as always by Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson. We have been getting you ready for the NFL Draft position by position. We're into the second look at each of those aforementioned positions. So if you have been following along at home all along, you know what's going to happen next. If you don't, here's how we're breaking it down. For the second time, it's not a list of our top five prospects at each position. It's a riser, a faller, and a sleeper at each position. We'll continue to do it that way through the second time through the lineup. If you'll allow me a baseball analogy, I know our colleague Bob Labriola loves those baseball analogies, so I try to make those wherever I can. We'll also drop in some mock drafts here and there as we continue getting you ready for late April. Dale, wide receiver. We've been doing these type of shows for a couple of years now, and it seems every year there are all kind of wide receivers available, big ones, small ones, guys who play outside, guys who play slot. It's a never-ending supply, or so it seems.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a buyer's market with this position, and it has been each year. We get an influx of 15 to 20 really good receivers every year, and this year's no difference. The difference this year, though, Mike, and we were talking about this prior to the show. So many guys just ran 4.4s and sub 4.4s at the combine this year. That the big ones did it, the small ones did it, the skinny ones did it, the bigger guy. Like, it's just, what do you want? What do you want from the position? Because you're going to find somebody in this draft that can probably fill that spot.
Speed certainly is not a problem with this crop, that's for sure. And not a lot of real beefy guys, besides Burks from Arkansas, a lot of tall, skinny, and smaller dudes. But, man, speed is evident.
Yeah, and to both your guys' points, the size and speed is what's really starting to resonate with me. Big guys that can run. We keep saying that every show, and we're going to say it again. Speaking of which, I'll lead off this particular episode. My riser, Treylon Brooks of Arkansas. I know a lot of people had him in their initial top fives, not just you guys, but I was, I don't know if skeptical is the word, but, he's clearly an attention-getting prospect at 6'2", 225. Didn't exactly light the combine up, but I heard he did better at Arkansas's pro day. Still didn't do another 40-yard dash at Arkansas's pro day back on March the 9th. But from what I read, he was a little more fluid and a little more eye-popping than he was in Indianapolis. Did I mention 6'2", 225? He thinks he's the next Deebo Samuel. And if there's something, a characteristic, shall we say, of the way the game is being played that I am more obsessed with than running quarterbacks, it's running receivers, specifically guys that you could move them into the backfield or use them the way the Niners used Deebo Samuel. Dale, it doesn't seem like it's reinventing the wheel, and yet it is, and they got a lot of mileage out of it. Find me a guy who can do that. I'm all in. Yeah,
and when you mentioned a guy like Deebo, who was a college running back that transitioned over to wide receiver. And that was what everybody loved about him coming out of the draft, was that he ran with the ball in his hands like he was still a running back. Well, no kidding. But yeah, if you can find guys like that who have that receiver-like quickness and hands and can then get them the football, it makes you, so much more dangerous when you break the huddle. Okay, where's he going to line up at? Who are you putting on him? Because that makes a difference. And so you're looking for guys who can do those kind of things. My riser, Mike, is actually a Pittsburgh guy. Skye Moore out of Western Michigan, a Shady Side Academy guy. Grew up in New Kensington, was a quarterback at Shady Side Academy, went to Western Michigan. They moved him to wide receiver. And the knock on him going into the combine, well, how fast is he really? He doesn't look that fast on tape. Then he went out and ran a 4.41 at 5'10" and 195 pounds. If you watch him get off the line of scrimmage, he has a really efficient way of doing so. It's really tough for defensive backs to get a hand on him. There's a lot there to like. He caught a gajillion passes at Western Michigan. And did I mention, I think I may have written this for Steelers.com, but His wide receiver in high school, his star wideout who played with him when he was the quarterback, was one Dino Tomlin.
There you go.
The son of Mike Tomlin. Think the Steelers might know a little bit about him?
Just a bit. Yeah, that guy's a really interesting player. Matt, who's your riser?
I'm with George Pickens from Georgia, and prototypical traits, 6'3", 195. If I asked, 2 years ago, who's the best wide receiver in this class, most would have said Pickens. I mean, he came in right away as a huge recruit, became Georgia's top guy, was a star early in his career. And then he tore his ACL in spring practice before the 2021 season, when everyone thought he would just take the world by storm. And to his credit, he came out and finished the year and probably was not close to 100%. But since, Georgia won the national title, he's looked great, at the drills and combine and things like that. So you might get him at a discount.
Yeah, he's gotten some attention, I guess is the word, on social media. Some people have cut up some clips on Twitter and whatnot of him just destroying cornerbacks in the run game. People line up opposite and he just levels them. I mean, fierce blocker. What do you think? Should we get a little two-man combine or two-man pro day going between Pickens and Stingley Jr. from LSU, the quarterback, and both of those guys can show everybody that they're both healthy at the same time?
Yeah, good one.
Let's stick with you, Matt. Faller, and believe it or not, we are all three of us in complete concert on this one.
Yeah, and I think it has to be David Bell from Purdue. No one expected him to be an elite athlete or an elite tester, but when everyone else was shining in that regard, he really stood out in a negative way. And part of me is a little hesitant because his tape's good and he's really productive at Purdue. And Keenan Allen and Anquan Bolden, and there's many examples, didn't test well, but their tape was great. So I do think people overrate testing with wide receivers a little, but I think he also has to be the follower.
Yeah, I mean, especially to your point, Matt, in regards to how everybody else was posting all those great times in the 40 at the combine, and then he goes out and runs a 4.65. But to your point, Keenan Allen was in the 4.7s. Bolden was in the 4.7. So,
but everybody else wasn't as fast.
Right.
That's the thing too. So, can he be successful in the NFL? Absolutely. I think he's a good route runner. I think he's smooth. There's a lot there to like. He's just not going to run away from anybody at the NFL level.
In terms of sleeper, Dale, you already did a really good job assessing Skye Moore from Western Michigan. I made him my sleeper in part because, in case people are unaware, in addition to speaking as we are right now, we write these up for Steelers.com. And full revelation, I wanted to write "The sky's the limit" and use the two Y's, like he does in his name, and I did. So that's one.
There you go.
I picked Skye Moore as my sleeper. Dale, you went to the great state of New Jersey for your sleeper.
Yeah, and a guy who has maybe a little bit of a similar skill set to a Skye Moore, Bo Melton out of Rutgers. Didn't put up crazy college stats because it was Rutgers. The quarterbacks there were an issue.
Decent football team this year, by the way.
Yeah, they weren't bad, and he was a big part of that. He's their leading receiver. He can run the ball a little bit, do some end-around stuff. He's good in the return game. And then he went stuff. Yeah, and then he went and ran a 4.3, 4.40. This guy's fast. So there's a lot there to like, and maybe not as refined as some of the other prospects coming up because they just didn't throw the ball as much at Rutgers as some of these other programs.
So wait, you say the guy coming out of Jersey's tough, but not necessarily refined?
That's what I'm telling you. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but this guy could be a nice sleeper for somebody.
I'm going to try to wrap my head around that.
Tony Soprano.
Rutgers alum. James Gandolfini.
Yep. There you go.
Matt, you're sticking with, shall we say, a little more of a known commodity, if I can say that about a sleeper?
Yeah, I will say if I were to redo this, I think I would take Tyquan Thornton from Baylor. He ran a 4.28, and that shows up on tape, and he is really tough, too. He's not just a track guy. But I went with Justin Ross, who's sort of similar to Pickens, who I had as my riser, in that goes to a big time school, Clemson, 6'4", 205, was really good early in his career, despite all the receivers Clemson had. And then he had a serious injury. I mean, his was a spine injury. So yeah, he may have got, I have no idea what his medical evals were at the combine, but that's a big deal, obviously. But now he's starting to get back into the flow. So maybe you get him at a discount.
Boy, that's a great point on the Baylor kid. You got me thinking I should have.
Yeah, I kind of missed the boat on that. I
thought that out a little bit, but then you miss out on that sky's the limit line.
Well, yeah, it's big.
Sometimes you got to root for the story, but
that's right.
That Baylor team was really fun to watch. As a guy who had no, animosity or admiration.
You just like them because they wear green.
Nah, I just
boy, they can run though.
They play a tough brand of ball on both sides, man. You turn their game on, you keep watching it. And particularly late in the year, really impressed with Baylor for what it's worth. Hopefully you're really impressed with these position by position reviews that we've been doing. If you've been following along with us, thank you for finding us wherever and however you've done that. I want to remind everybody that these are going to still or are going to keep coming. We're going to do this stuff between now and the draft. Getting everybody ready, looks at not just the positions, but we'll drop some mock drafts in and try to do the best job we can do to get everybody ready for late April. You can catch it all on all the Steelers social media platforms. Until you do, for Matt Williamson and Dale Lolley, I'm Mike Prisuta. You have been listening to NFL Draft Triple Take presented by UPMC.